want to give a quick shout out to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode. I know the post-holiday blues are among us, and if you're feeling a little bit down in that realm or overwhelmed with the New Year's, or your goals are already off to not the start you were hoping for, BetterHelp is a great place to get the therapy that you need. It's affordable, it's online, you can do it from the comfort of your home, and it's really easy to join. So all you have to do is go to betterhelp.com, and they will take you through a little form quiz type of thing, match you with a therapist in your area and for your needs, and it's all smooth sailing from there. So I've used BetterHelp in the past. I think they're incredible. It was super easy to do, and I would recommend it to anyone who needs a little extra guidance at this time of the year or whenever. So my listeners get 10% off if y'all want to check it out. If you go to betterhelp.com/GraceP, you do get 10% off of your first month, and that does help support the show. So if that is something you are looking for right now, be sure to check out betterhelp.com/GraceP for 10% off your first month, and happy therapy. Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the 20-something podcast. I'm Grace, and we are doing a solo episode today. This is my annual solo episode that I do for my birthday every year. I will be 25 years old. I have been thinking about this episode for months because so much happened in this past year. It was definitely the most life-changing year of my life. Like, I am so determined to make this year the best of my life. Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the 20-something podcast. I'm Grace, and we are doing a solo episode today. And it has been quite some time since we've done a solo episode, so I feel a little bit rocky. Took me a hot minute to actually get started here, but I'm very excited because this is my annual solo episode that I do for my birthday every year. I've done it for the past 2 years, so this will be the third year on the pod, turning a different age, and I will be 25 years old on Friday. Y'all are listening to this on Monday, so I just turned 25 on the 31st of January. When you are listening to this, I am recording this on Wednesday, so I'm not quite yet 25, but you get the point. So in the previous years, what I've done is I've written out a list of the 23 things I learned in my 23 years, and then the 24 things, and so this year it was just going to be 25 things. And we'll do that a little bit. I do have a list, but I thought we would take it a little bit of a different route this time. I was listening back to last year's episode, and that girl, she had no idea what she was doing, and I don't know what I'm doing right now either, to be honest with you, but I don't know. Just reading off of a list of very cliche things that anybody can tell you on TikTok, like, to me, at least, it's not super helpful. It's just another 20-something-year-old telling you to chase your dreams and get uncomfortable, and all that jazz. So obviously the cliche things are true and whatever and whatnot, but this past year was a lot, and I have been thinking about this episode for months because so much happened in this past year. It was definitely the most life-changing year of my life, and also the most challenging. And the number one thing that I wanted to say in this episode, more so for me, for when I look back on these episodes, is this is the last time that I want to sit here reflecting on the year past and have the words, "that was the hardest year of my life," come out of my mouth. And now, granted, a lot of things in my life have changed in the past 3 years. I've gone through a lot, and 24 was a really, really hard year. And I'm not going to diminish that or dwell on it or anything, but I am stating it. I'm putting it out into the universe right now that when I do this for age 26, I will not sit here and be like, 26 was the hardest year of my life. It was the most challenging. Like, I am so determined to make this year the best of my life. We're off to a good start, I can say confidently, as we're 29 days into, I guess I'm on trajectory to be off to a good start. Sometimes it's hard for me to differentiate between the new year and my birthday because they're so close, but essentially I'm ending 24 on a good note, and I feel really good moving into age 25. So there are a couple things that I want to share with y'all today, and then I do have like a list of things that I've learned throughout this year. It's not 25 things, and I wasn't going to put the pressure on myself to make it 25 things, because then it just becomes like me reiterating stuff or saying things that don't really have any value to them. And the most important thing out of these episodes is to give value to y'all, and to shed light on areas that maybe you are struggling in, or you need some insight on, or whatever in that realm. It's just to provide as much value and help as many people as possible. And there are going to be some things that I share today that I haven't talked a lot about with many people, and that actually comes with one of the things that I have learned this year, is that asking for help is not weak, does not make you a weak person to talk to the people around you and ask for help when you're struggling, and be open about the things that you're going through. I've always been a very, very independent person, and I'm not sure why, but I've always been somebody who thinks that I'm so much stronger if I go through things on my own, and then I come out on top, and then I can tell people about it, like, oh yeah, I was going through this, I was really struggling, but I got through it and now I'm here. Like, it doesn't make you stronger to suffer alone, which is something that I learned this year, and I'm grateful that I learned it, because nobody wants to suffer alone. And I wouldn't necessarily say I was suffering, but I was going through some struggles, and I just kind of held all of that inside, and it made me not so great person on the outside from my eyes, or at least the way that I want to be and view myself in this world. So a couple months ago, actually, I wrote a little blurb about age 24 and the year and what it brought me. And I'm going to share that with you guys today. And I know I've shared my writing on here before a couple times. And if you're not new here, you know this. But if you are new here, writing is something that's very therapeutic to me. It always has been. I've always enjoyed writing. And when I'm feeling really big things, that is my outlet, is to write. You put some music in, and I just am typing away. And so that's what I did a couple months ago, and I'm going to share it with you. I want to give a forewarning that it's not heavy, but it's definitely not uplifting. And I do not feel that way anymore. This was, like I said, a few months ago. I was having a hard time. And I feel like I'm a flipped person from that point in my life. But it was something that I felt reflected on a lot of the hardships of this past year. So I figured we'd start with that, and then we could move into the happy stuff, because like I said earlier, I'm feeling so optimistic about the coming year and being 25 and living my 26th year of my life, and putting this past year in the past, taking the things from it that are going to help me grow and develop as a person, and leaving everything else back there. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to share, how many times do I have to say I'm going to share this little blurb with you guys, but I believe I wrote this in October, and at that point in time, I had just lost my grandma, and a month earlier from that, I had lost my grandpa. So one of the things this past year that was incredibly life-altering and difficult was losing two grandparents within a month of each other. So I was going through a pretty rough time when I wrote this. I was pretty angry for a while, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's kind of how I want to preface this before I read it, because this was written with a lot of pain behind it, but I think it did a good job kind of summing up exactly how I was feeling in that moment. And if this makes one person feel like they're not alone in what they're going through, if you can relate to this, I'm sorry that you can relate to this, but yeah, so this is what I wrote. I titled it The 25th Year. If someone were to ask, what did year 25 bring you? Grief. Not just around the death of two of my grandparents, but in realizing I've lost the younger version of myself. Understanding I'm halfway through my 20s and the girl staring back at me in the mirror is one I often don't recognize. Pain. Not just on my toe that I'm almost certain I broke months ago, but in the acceptance that I am lost, and that's okay. Excitement. Not just about lowering my monthly car insurance, but for the opportunities I'm creating now that will surface in this new year. Love. Not just for the people around me, but for the person I am becoming in part because of them. Longing. Not just for the girl I have left in the past, but to meet the girl who awaits me in the future. Disappointment. Not just in what seems to be a crumbling society around me, but in myself for allowing that to dictate how I perceive each day ahead of me. Fear. Not just about my future, but about missing important parts of my sisters. Fulfillment. Not just in the things I occupy my time with outside of work, but in the knowing that I am making some sort of impact through those things. And hope. Not just that all things will work out in the end, but in finding true happiness within those things. The words this year has been the most challenging of my life, becoming more and more present in my everyday dialect. What the hell happened? Where did the time go? Well, that's the moral of the story. The time will go regardless of if you recognize it or not, regardless of if you remember it, pay attention to it, cherish it, make the most of it. Time flies. Or so that's what they say. And before you know it, you're 25 years old when just last week you were 22, graduating college with so much hope in your heart for the future that you could have exploded. And now you aren't so sure where all that hope went. I like to believe there are pieces of that young hope scattered around the events of my past. Some in that loft when I realized I didn't get to live in my very first apartment for forever. Some at that kitchen counter when my first post-grad job let me go and I was so unsure as to what to do moving forward from there. Some in that doorway when the boy I loved walked out for the last time and I was left standing there, no clue as to how I would move forward from this. Some on the streets of La Crosse as I drove away for the last time, unsure of where I was headed, but certain it was for the better. I spent the majority of 24 thinking that all those sprinkled pieces of hope were gone forever, with nothing to replace them but an emptiness I have been fighting to fill since the day I left home. Reflection has helped me realize that with every piece of hope left behind, a new piece latched on somewhere, somehow, and most of the time unknowingly to me. And as I get glimpses of that hope in the present day, it reminds me of just how much there will always be to look forward to. Leaving that loft apartment behind brought me an absolutely amazing house that I get to share with two of my closest friends. Losing that job opened up space in my heart and my mind to create a podcast platform that I am so damn proud of. Walking away from that relationship with the knowledge that I didn't have to taught me that I am capable of choosing myself and gave me hope that one day I could be exactly who I wanted to be on my own terms. Leaving Wisconsin behind brought me some of the most amazing people that I never expected to love, but could not imagine a life in which I don't love them. I am learning in the present moment that if you do stop and look around, there are positives connected to every so-called negative. And if you really choose to find the light in every situation, the positives will always outweigh the negatives. what a messy year it was, but messy in the most beautiful and unexpected way. This year I learned that you have a choice. You get to choose how you perceive your life. And most people recommend that you choose wisely. Pretty tough year, but so much good came from so much pain. And we always say that we wish we could go back and tell our younger version of ourselves these things. But one thing about me is, like, I always have known that it's going to get better. And I will always know that the best is yet to come, and so much good is coming in this life. And without pain and without struggle and without hurt, it's not as easy to see how beautiful things are. And I was really clouded by all of these things that I was going through this year, that I couldn't exactly see all of the amazing things that were piecing together behind the smoke. And I was creating a little like TikTok recap of 2024 over the holidays and going back through my photos of each month, and it just struck me all of a sudden. I was like, there was so much good this year, and you kind of missed it because you were so consumed by the hurt and the confusion and the unsure that you kept all of your focus in your own head, and you weren't looking out at what was happening around you, you know? And there's something to be said on both ends. Obviously, some of those things were out of my control, and I mean, I had some justified reasons to be hurting. But the first half of 24 was just a really big shift for me in understanding that I am no longer my 22-year-old self. And I remember the day that it really dawned on me. We had just gotten back from a weekend trip for, we got just gotten back from a weekend trip that was like right after my birthday with the girls, and it was so fun. And I woke up that Monday morning, or that Sunday morning, whatever it was. I don't know. Time is warped. I remember going in the bathroom and looking in the mirror, and I had no idea who I was looking at. It almost felt like an out of body experience, because I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, that's not me. Not even just physically, just like all around, energy wise. And when you can just see it in your face, I was like, I don't know who that is. And then I was like, shit, I don't know how I got here. And then I was like, shit, I don't know how to get out of here. And so I spent months going back to everything that I did when I was like 20, 21, 22. Because at that point, those were like the years of my life where I felt the best about myself. And I was really developing personally in those years. And I really liked who I was at like 21, 22. That was my favorite version of myself up until this point. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do everything that girl did. So I started 75 Hard that next day. And it sucked. I did an episode on it. You can hear it in my voice. If you go back, if you listened through to the podcast this whole year, God bless you. Like, God, may God bless you, because I was a train wreck. Not just like, I wasn't a train wreck, but I was so down. You could hear it in my voice. Like, I can't go back and listen to those episodes hardly, because you can just hear the negativity behind everything that I said. And so I did 75 Hard, and I did it. I did it, but I was so angry the whole time, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't good and why it wasn't working and why I wasn't feeling like myself in the blink of an eye again. And I went through that cycle from February to like the end of July, to be honest with y'all. I did 75 hard, and then I decided I was going to do phase 1 of the Live Hard program. And then I just decided I was going to do the entire year, which I'm finishing up a week from today, actually. I will have completed the Live Hard year. But I couldn't figure out why nothing was working for me. Financially, I was having a hard time. With my job, I was having a hard time. I was working all the time. I was exhausted. I didn't like the way that I looked. I didn't like the way that I felt. I just felt so much like anger and heaviness in my body. And then come August, I don't know what happened. And I remember talking to my best friend Mallory on the phone about this. I was on a walk, and it was almost end of August, and I was like, something is different. I don't know what happened, but I just woke up and something is different. All of a sudden, I don't care what people think of me. I don't care for other people's validation. I don't care for outside input. Something is different, and today I just feel like the only person I need and want to show up for is myself, and I have never felt more free. Like, I just feel so happy to be here and to be me and to be working on me and to have this freedom and to be at this state in life. And I was like, and I just don't care. I told her, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel different. And she was like, I think your frontal lobe is developing. And I was like, that's a thing? Like, that's a real thing? Which maybe it is, because it just felt like a flip of a switch. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm good. I don't need others' validation. I don't need rules to follow. I'm not my 22-year-old self, and that's okay. I'm okay with not being that girl anymore, because I'm really excited to meet the 25-year-old version of myself. And I'm really excited to be really intentional about how I build her and what I create around that. And that was when things started to get really good for me, is when I finally let go of the fact that I'm just not the younger version of myself anymore. And that's okay. We're not supposed to. That's why we have birthdays every year, and we like change age because we get older. That type of thing. And I was just so stuck in my ways of like, no, this is who I'm going to be, and all of this jazz. And it's just, that was just digging me even deeper of a hole. And because I was digging even deeper of a hole, the only way I felt good was through other people's validation. So anywhere I could get it, from boys, from employers, from friends, whatever. I needed somebody else to tell me that I was beautiful, or that I was doing well, or that I was this or that or this, because I couldn't believe it myself. And so as soon as I let go of that and accepted the fact that, yeah, you're not who you used to be, you got a little bit lost along the way, but you're here now, and you have the choice to move forward and build something even better than what you've known in the past. There you go. And then it was like, oh, light bulb. So cool. I get to do this. I've never felt more grateful. And then, so that was like August. And then the first week of September, my grandpa passed away. And I just remember feeling like, okay, when life gives you lemons type of thing, or that like cliche of like things are really good and then all of a sudden shit hits the fan. But I was really honestly inspired at that moment because things were starting to get good around that time for me, and I was really starting to feel like myself again. And I remember just being incredibly inspired at his visitation and his funeral and we had a celebration of life for him, and his celebration of life with the amount of people that came and the people that spoke so highly of him and the stories that were told and the atmosphere that we were in, because he was the kindest person you would have ever met, and that really inspired me. And so I was obviously incredibly sad, and still have a hard time with it as it was only in September. But I remember coming back from that, and instead of feeling like I needed to wallow and sit around, it was more so like, you get this one life, and you might be the main character of your life, but what you do with your life impacts others, and that's important to me. And I felt so inspired by the way he had impacted others' lives, and that kind of fueled the fire a little bit. And so I came back and I started phase 2 of the Live Hard program, and 2 weeks into the Live Hard program, we got Hurricane Helene. And for those of you that don't know, I live in Greenville, South Carolina. So like we got Hurricane Helene and we lost power for 7 days. Now we didn't get even close to what Asheville and Western North Carolina got, but we did not have power for 7 days. And I'm on phase 2 of 75 hard, which is just 75 hard, but for 30 days. And I can't cook, and we have no power, and I can't go to work, and we have no hot water, and all of this stuff. So at that point, I'm like, okay, another bang. It's fine. We can do this. I'm going to power through. We're going to get through this. And we did. And I was like, okay, I got this. Like, I'm sticking to it. I'm not reverting. I'm not going back to the way I was feeling. I still feel good. I'm finding myself. I'm doing the right things. I'm building the base of who I'm going to be at age 25 and all this stuff. And I'm grieving, but I've got focus, and it's good. And we got the power back. And then 5 days later, my grandma died. And now I'm angry. I'm finishing phase 2, and I owe a lot to the Live Hard program, because if I had not have been on phase 2 during all of this, I probably would have reverted to just not giving a shit about anything. But I'm an all or nothing person, and I was in it, and so there was no quitting. I had like a week left, and so I had to keep going, and that was helpful because it kept me in routine, because my grandma passed away and I was in South Carolina and she was in Wisconsin, and I couldn't get home until her funeral, which was a week later. So I was here, and I had my people here, which I can't even describe how blessed I am. But if you ever want to feel completely helpless, that's the situation. My family's in Wisconsin. My mom just lost her mom. My dad just lost his mother-in-law and his dad. My mom just lost her father-in-law. My sister just lost 2 grandparents. I just lost 2 grandparents. And I'm 1,000 miles away, and I can't get back for a week. It's a Wednesday night, and I'm cooking rice, thinking it's all going to be good. I'm back on track. I'm cooking rice. My dad calls. And here we are again. And so now at this point, I'm angry. Like, I'm angry because what the hell? What the hell, for so many reasons. And we don't have to go down that road because it was a lot, and I've worked through it. But needless to say, life has never proven the point of shit's just going to keep happening and you just have to keep going to me the way it did in the fall of 2024. And I feel very, very grateful that I had that mindset shift in August, because that just kept me grounded through all of that. And coming out of all of that, the light was so bright. And it was such a weird thing, because October was arguably one of the better months for me. The podcast absolutely started taking off in October. I started doing all of my episodes, most of them in person. I was growing my network in Greenville. It was just all around, like, opportunities were coming my way left and right in October, which, like, almost made me angrier, because I was like, all of this stuff is happening, and I'm losing people, and I'm angry, and all these good things are happening, and, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to grieve? Am I supposed to be happy? And it was kind of like this whole whirlwind of a thing. But coming out of all of that just made me so grateful and so blessed to, for one, have gotten to know my grandparents. Not everybody gets to know their grandparents, and not only did I know my grandparents, but they were big parts of my life, and I am utterly grateful for that. Two, for having the opportunity and the means and the support to go back and to be there, and, to say goodbye to my grandpa, and to be at both of their funerals, and to be there for my family. And three, to have had the capacity within myself to still take care of me and to still prosper and grow in the other areas of my life. And it's been smooth sailing since then. So we got through October, and now we're here, and it's just kind of been a really gradual uphill, positive, linear slope, I guess you can call it. Not uphill, not as in like uphill battle, but things are just like moving upwards, and I just feel more and more grateful every day. So I probably touched on quite a few of these things in my list of what I've learned in my 25 years throughout that story. But a couple things outside of that have really helped me tune into the opportunities that are around me and open myself up to that. I do want to share some of those with you. So we'll kind of just go down this list. Sorry if that was a ramble. I wanted to give a little bit of a timeline of this year, because without it, some of these might not have made sense. And I'm probably not going to share all of these, to be honest. It's just a lot. But let's see, what's a good one to start with? Here, going off of all of that, I just trauma dumped on you guys. Perspective makes all the difference. And that's what I learned throughout all of that, is I could have looked at it a completely different way, and I could have played a victim and wondered why God made all of that happen at once as soon as I was starting to feel like myself, and put me through that. But instead, you flip the script and you look at it from a different light, and you come out feeling empowered almost, and grateful. Another thing that I learned throughout all of that, let go and let God. I have started to kind of dabble in religion and what I believe, what my religious beliefs are. I've always been a religious person. I grew up Christian, but it's not been something that I have practiced in my adult life. Started to read the Bible this year, and I talked to God a lot this year, and I never really talked to God. I said my prayers every night growing up and that type of thing, but I never really prayed, and I prayed a lot this year, and it really helped me feel grounded throughout those times. And I I never really understood when people said let go and let God or just trust in God, but I didn't know what else to do. So I just trusted in God, and if anything, it just made me feel more grounded and made me feel like, okay, I've got this support behind me, and I know that I'm gonna get through this, and that he has a plan and he's gonna get me there, and I just have to continue trusting in him. Home is where your people are, and home isn't a place. So another thing that happened this year was my parents sold our house in Wisconsin, and they're still in Wisconsin, just in a smaller place, but the home that we essentially grew up in and spent a lot of my life in was no longer ours. And that was really tough for me at that time because, I'm going through all this stuff of like, I'm not my 22-year-old self anymore. I'm not my younger self. And then I lost my home that was like I tied everything to, and then it was just like a slippery slope, and I was kind of being a drama queen about it. But truly, like, we moved into this house. We're in a house now, not an apartment anymore, and we moved in here in September. Sarah and I with our other roommate Caroline, and Greenville has never felt more. No place that I've lived outside of my physical house in Wisconsin with my family has ever felt like home until now. Until we got to this house, and we're with Caroline now, and my friendships in Greenville are growing so much, and I'm building such a strong community. And I really started to realize that, like, Greenville, as amazing as it is really just a place. And if I didn't have the people here, I'm not sure how I would feel. I mean, it's a cool city. I really love it here. But it's really the people that make it the home. And for that, I am just utterly grateful for. Like I said earlier, asking for help does not show weakness. So if you are struggling with things, asking for help is actually a strength. Strong people, they ask for help when they don't know what to do, what next. And I'm very happy to learn that, because I'm not afraid to ask for help anymore or to talk about the things that I'm struggling with. Because surprise, surprise, when you do that, you actually like work through it a lot faster than if you bottle it all up and try to work through it on your own. You would think I would know that at this age, but apparently I didn't. I do now. These couple things kind of go to get like hand in hand, but I wrote, never stop asking questions, hope for a no, and if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I had to get over a fear of asking people for things, for opportunities. And I'm glad I did, because it has brought me some really incredible opportunities through the podcast. But I used to be so afraid of asking people for referrals or for references, or just cold reaching out to people and asking them to be on the podcast. Like, it used to make me so nervous. And I remember, like, I used to tell myself, like, you cannot leave this coffee shop or this place, wherever you're at. You cannot go do this thing until you ask that person to be on the podcast. And so I would, and then boom, they'd be on the podcast. So, hoping for a no just kind of goes with like, never stop asking questions, never stop like, putting yourself out there, like hope for a no. Like when you're getting no's, you're just leveling up and kind of taking that next step and pushing that aside. Okay, that's not it. What's next? That's not it. What's next? And the more no's you get, the higher percentage of a chance you're going to get a yes. And like, that goes with, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So might as well ask, right? The number one thing I wrote on, the first thing I wrote was act as if. And I think that really started to come into play when I figured out, like, I need to stop acting like I'm my 22-year-old self, because I'm not, and start acting like who I actually want to be in this life. And I think that was a big thing when I had that like flip of the switch, frontal lobe development, whatever you want to call it, was when I just started to act as the person I wanted to be. And then I slowly started to see her come to life. So you don't have to wait to actually be that thing. If you just start doing the things that you imagine your future self would do, it actually becomes your reality. Anger is an ugly, ugly, ugly trait. No explanation there. I never want to feel that way again. Time is limited, and you truly only get one life. So time is limited. I obviously learned this fall. My grandma was 90. She lived a long and a beautiful life, and she was one of the strongest people I ever knew. And so, losing her was devastating, but the life that she lived, it was admirable, and it was a long life. My grandpa, we lost earlier than I think we expected. And that really made me understand how limited time is and how you really just don't know. And then you only get one life is actually something that I just kind of realized yesterday. When you just kind of have an epiphany, like you're just brushing your teeth and all of a sudden you're like, and you truly understand something. I was doing that yesterday. I was brushing my teeth and I'm just kind of like dissociating, like staring. And all of a sudden I just fully understood that I'm like, I will never be 24 years old and 362 days brushing my teeth again. Whoa. So it's true. We really only do get one life. And I was like, well, shit. and not even in a scary way, but more so in a like, how freaking weird and cool and kind of magical. Like, you only get this one life, so freaking go do shit. Make the most of it. Go chase what you want to chase, or go be who you want to be, or live every single day as if it's the best day ever. Romanticize all of the stuff. Obviously bad stuff's going to happen, and there are going to be days that suck and like outside circumstances that you can't control, like death. But when those things aren't happening, like, why not wake up every day and be like, hell yeah, how cool, I'll never live this day again. There are no second chances. There are no do-overs. You don't get a second life. You don't just like come back and you're like, nope, try again. Like, it doesn't happen like that. Or I guess we don't know. Maybe. I don't know. From what I have heard and seen and believe to know, we don't get a second chance or another life. So like, why not like just say rock on and freaking enjoy it? I don't know. This was a good one for me. So remember when I said I was really angry? I wrote this. You will never leave an encounter in which you were rude to somebody feeling good, but you will always leave an encounter in which you were kind to someone feeling good. I've never been a rude person, but going through grief did not make me the kindest person. And there was a situation I'm not going to get into, not like nothing crazy, just where somebody had said something to me that made me reflect a little bit on how I was coming across to others, and it beat me up a little bit because, like I said, my grandpa was one of the kindest people I have ever known, and I wasn't being unkind, but I definitely wasn't being kind. And I was like, that might be contributing to how angry you are, is you're going about everything in an angry way, and your interactions with people are not genuine and they're not light. And the last thing I ever want to do is have somebody leave an encounter with me feeling bad. And so that was like kind of a light bulb moment of like, okay, it's time to, you can be sad and you can grieve, but that does not give you an excuse to be outwardly angry and negative in the realm of other people. And so that was definitely something that I carried through with me. Is it does not take that much effort to be kind. Just be a kind human. You don't know what other people are going through, just like they don't know what you're going through. And that was kind of my mindset of like, oh, like he didn't know what I was going, like he didn't know that I was going through all this grief and whatnot. But like in that moment, I was like, okay, yeah, he didn't know that, Grace, but you don't know what he might have been going through. So just because you're going through a hard time doesn't mean that you don't need to be just a nice person, you know? You don't have to be overly like ecstatic and bubbly, but just be nice. Just be a kind person and move on. And so I just started doing that and being more intentional about speaking to people and being more open and not closed off. And surprise, surprise, it actually made me feel a lot better. Duh. I wrote something on here about friendship. I think that speaks for itself, kind of like what I said with Greenville being home with all of my people here. Just a reminder that there is great friendship and love waiting for you past high school and college. I know that can be a tough time, and maybe you're struggling post-grad to make friends, or you're in college and you're struggling, or you're in high school and you're struggling. I made one friend in college, one singular friend. And 2 years ago, I didn't know a single soul that lives here in Greenville that is in my life and that is incredibly important to me. So it's hard because in the moment it's like, I know it's coming, but just remember, like, there is so much good coming, and your people are out there, and you're going to find them. You're going to get to them. So let go and let God. I kind of want to wrap this up with this one. I know we didn't go off the list completely for the 25 things, but I feel like we touched on it. So to kind of sum it all up, life goes on. Regardless of what you're going through or what's happening to you. So you have to go on too, because life's not going to stop for you. Life didn't stop when my grandpa died. Life didn't stop when the hurricane hit. Life didn't stop when my grandma died. Life doesn't stop when you lose that job. Life doesn't stop when you get injured or if you get sick or what. Like, life, it doesn't care. It's unforgiving. It's going to keep going. So you better keep up. You know, it's okay to sit with how it feels and to sit with the stuff that you're going through and to work through it. I'm not saying to just shove it all in and run, because I also did that. And then we ended up with the whole, like, me sitting in the mirror situation being like, who are you? You know, so don't do that either, but don't stop everything else because something is happening. Like I said, I was going through all of this grief and pain and sadness over here, and the podcast was like popping off over here, and I was getting all these opportunities left and right. And if I would have halted everything in my life because of the grief I was feeling, I would have never gotten those opportunities. And I don't want you to feel guilty for doing both, because I struggled with that a little bit. Like, should I be sitting here in my sadness, grieving my grandparents, or should I be accepting these opportunities and be excited about it? Well, you can be both. You don't have to be one or the other. And then I also thought to myself that my grandma would smack me in the head if she knew I was pushing opportunities away to sit and be sad about her. You know, she'd want me to go after it, and so would my grandpa. My grandma's just a very strong-willed, stubborn woman, so I could just imagine her telling me, you know, to not do that. But yeah, life, it keeps going. It keeps turning. Feels like yesterday we were doing this and I was 24, and And it feels like yesterday we were doing this and I was 23 and I was in Wisconsin and I was sitting in my living room in La Crosse by myself. And I had zero idea we would be here right now. But here we are. And yeah, so the wheel keeps turning and you have to as well. And finding that balance can be difficult, but using your resources, leaning on people, asking for help, talking to people about it. You've got a tribe. And if you feel like you don't have a tribe, I'll be your tribe. You can always send me a message, but there's so much opportunity around you. It's everywhere, but you have to be open to receiving it, and you have to be open to understanding that even if it feels hard with something else in your life, even if you're struggling with something or you're dealing with something over here, there are other things happening over here that you're allowed to be open to. Good things can happen while you're in a bout of grief or struggling in one area. Another area could be flourishing. Find that positive. Focus on that positive. Focus on that opportunity. Grasp onto it and let it expand. And that will trickle into the other areas of your life too. And then you will keep moving forward. It's not always going to be that nice, clean, positive slope line that all of us type A'ers love. It's going to be all over the place, but it will trend upwards and in that positive direction if you keep the focus and keep the perspective on where are the opportunities, what can I do next, how can I continue growing and cultivating who I am and who I want to be in this life. So, yeah, my word for age 25 is abundance, and my motto is happy and healthy all around. So this is going to be the best year of my life. I can already feel it. There's so much good coming. I am so beyond blessed to be where I'm at right now and to have the people that I have and the opportunities that I have and to have this platform. And I'm very excited to see where the pod goes in this year. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. I hope that made sense. I always say that after a solo episode, but it's hard to sit and talk for an hour and I don't script anything. So yeah, that's that. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being here. Love you so much, and I will talk to you soon.